From Studio 1A in Tampa, Florida, comes a talk show that really feels your pain and tells you like it is. We love America and all that freedom-loving Americans want to protect. Live from coast to coast and on your radio, it's For the People with Keith Allen.
We'll help you survive this thing called life. We're for the people. Whatever your source of stress or strife, for the people is there.
Hello, Mr. and Mrs. America. I am Keith Allen, and proudly welcoming you into this weekend edition of For the People, wherever you're listening. A catastrophe happened, and first we have the shooting, and now we have a bridge collapse, and it's sad when it happens in your backyard. It's sad if it happens anywhere in America, but a bridge collapsed, and this bridge that we're seeing on television, we're hearing on radio reports, people talking about, was supposed to be a work of art, but revolutionary. It was supposed to be a technological marvel, and all these construction companies were just boasting about it and how impressive it was and how the brightest minds and innovators and all of that. And something tragic happened, killed 6 people yesterday. I mean, when you have tons of stuff falling on you, you're going to have some deaths and some casualties. I don't understand it. They call it an instant bridge. Suddenly collapsed yesterday. Left 6 people dead and screams immediately after. Horrific screams. I mean, you could hear it under the rubble, and there was places where you could hear the sound, but the local people that were in that area near the university there. This is in the Miami-Fort Lauderdale area, and a construction company known as MCM Construction. It's a Miami-based contractor. And then Fig Bridge Design, they're based in Tallahassee. Both of them were working with dozens of other projects across the country, but apparently they were doing a stress test on the bridge. It's just something commonly done to just make sure that before they give the green light that everything's okay. It was during that procedure that the bridge just caved in and dominoed. And unbelievable. And they were not allowing news choppers or anything within a mile to 2 mile, I think it was about 2 miles, is that right? 2 mile proximity, because they had to have as quiet as possible, because they had the rescue dogs in and rescuers and engineers trying to just hear signs of life. And that was the scene. But 6 people dead. And right now, a lot of folks just want answers. And apparently, at least one of these construction companies that was working on this has been under fire before, and apparently had another issue that happened in Ohio several years ago. That's right. The Virginia Department of Labor cited Fig for 4 violations. It was a little while back. The 4 violations was 2012 after a 90-ton slab of concrete, just 90 tons, fell from a bridge building from Norfolk, according to the Miami Herald. Fig was hit with a $28,000 fine, and the Department of Labor said the company modified a girder without properly inspecting it or getting written consent from its manufacturer. And there's a lot of other breaking news that is coming out of Miami about this particular bridge that came down, and supposedly some of the workers were unqualified. You heard me, totally unqualified to make decisions for the bridge, for the workers, for the bridge, for the condition. So, 6 people dead. I mean, this is what happens when you try to bring in folks to save a buck. That's what happens when you get greedy, when you get in a rush for something. Bad things happen. We pray for the families, obviously. A lot of people grieving the loss of their loved ones. And, I mean, it could have been a whole lot worse. But 6 deaths, that affects a lot of folks. somebody's mom, somebody's child. Yeah, you know the story. Speaking of a story, we're going to go up to Neenah, Wisconsin right now to Eagle Nation Cycle with Steve Arado, Kay Reitz standing by live, and Mike Peterson, who was one of the hostages back in the year 2015. It's hard to believe that much time span has gone by, but many of our audience have kept track from the Post-Crescent, even if they don't live in the area, but we'll refresh your memory of all what happened. But there was a trial. Apparently, it lasted for 6 days, and Michael Flatoff represented himself, which was not a good thing, but I watched it. I kept up with it to see what he would say, and very interesting, the direction that he took, I thought. Kay, welcome into For the People. It's good to have you back, and to Mike and Steve, it's also nice to see all of you on Skype.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Well, it's been 27 months since we actually started this this radio show with you regarding this issue. It's been a long 27 months.
Yeah.
As you know, and as you just said, you listened to the trial with Brian Flatoff, and I was there every day. It was a pretty draining effect. I learned a lot about the justice system that maybe I really didn't want to learn about. I guess it was interesting to say the least. Steve and Ryan Moterson and Mike Peterson were witnesses, as you know, many other people. There was a lot of things that really upset me about the trial, being so close to this whole situation for the past 27 months.
You bet. Let's refresh our audience, Kay, just before we get a little bit
sure.
Into the broadcast, in case this is just all new. Take us back to 2015, exactly what happened there at that beautiful cycle shop in Neenah on that dreadful morning in December of 2015. Some gentleman was looking for his motorcycle, and that gentleman, I don't even think we want to call him a gentleman, but Michael Flatoff came in there, and what happened?
Brian
Flatoff. There it is.
Right.
What a scum.
Brian Flatoff came into Eagle Nation Cycle on the morning of December 5th looking for his motorcycle. Long story, and we probably will never get the real story as to what happened.
Yeah.
But he says someone stole his motorcycle. That person said he bought the motorcycle. With that said, the motorcycle was brought to Eagle Nation Cycles here in Neenah, Wisconsin for repairs. This is a repair shop. Michael Funk and Ryan Moterson were working on the bike that morning, as with probably 15, 20, 25 other bikes here in the shop, when Brian Flatoff came in and held the two of them hostage.
With a gun.
Steve Arado was in the basement with a gun, with a couple of knives. He was very messed up on drugs and alcohol. Steve was in the basement. Came up the steps, and Michael Funk motioned him to go back down. Mike Peterson, a neighbor that comes over every morning, gets the coffee going, and
great guy,
and talks with the guys. Yep, came in the door like he did every morning. Came over ready to get the coffee going, and noticed something wasn't quite right between the two mechanics working, and noticed a guy standing behind Michael Funk, somebody that he didn't know. And with that said, the Brian Flatoff pulled his gun out, put it in Michael's chest, and told him he couldn't leave. There was a gunshot that Brian Flatoff shot into the ceiling. Steve Arado heard that gunshot from the basement, called upstairs to Michael Funk on his cell phone and said, "Should I call the police?"
Okay. I think we lost our Skype connection. The wireless connection sometimes goes a little haywire, so hopefully we'll get Kay Reitz back. As you could hear, there was definitely a lot of drama going on at that motorcycle shop that morning. Very, very frightful, as you can imagine, if you were in a position like that where one morning you show up for work and somebody has a gun to you and tells you to do what you're going to do, you're probably going to listen. Kay, we got a lost connection, but we got you back. Please continue where you left off.
Great. So with that said, now you've got you have 4 hostages in the building. Back in 2012, there was a raid here at Eagle Nation Cycles. And I'm saying this because some of the police officers that were involved in the shooting of Michael Funk were involved in that 2012 raid.
What was the raid about?
They didn't come up with anything.
Why did they raid Eagle Nation in 2012? Why did they do that? The raid was,
first of all, this building is in an area in Neenah where they wanted to tear all the buildings down in this area to build a parking lot for a new building that was being built. If they could have found something, they said they were manufacturing drugs or I don't know what else they were looking for. If they could have found something during that raid, they could have taken this building.
Okay.
Well, because they didn't find anything, there was a $50 million lawsuit against the city of Neenah and against several of the officers, one of the officers who was instrumental in the killing of Michael Funk.
I see. So there was a lot of animosity, towards the motorcycle shop, towards what was going on in the building. The police didn't like Eagle Nation because they were a motorcycle shop and they didn't like bikers. And it happens. It's a type of racism, in a way, if you look at it that way. But Kay, Michael.
Well, it wasn't happening until Chief Wilkinson came to town.
Yeah, the chief certainly had something to do with this, and obviously covering up still his officers to this day, as you know. So there's a huge, and the lawsuit that you mentioned there, is that still going on where the cycle shop is suing the city, or has that been dismissed?
No, that's been dismissed, and it actually was dismissed after Michael Funk was murdered.
And how about the wrongful death of the mother of Michael Funk? Is she still pursuing her lawsuit, or has that been dismissed?
Oh, the wife of Michael Funk is still pursuing her lawsuit.
Okay, but the mother never sued.
The mother, Phyllis Funk, and Michael's brother, Greg, were never even notified by anybody from DOJ, the mayor, the chief of police, anybody. They were never even talked to about this whole situation.
Michael Funk was gunned down, mistaken.
Which is another issue that we really have a problem with.
Michael Funk was gunned down, mistaken as being the perpetrator, as they call him, in law enforcement. But the guy who got charged in all of this, supposedly, that kicked this thing off, there was a trial that went, and I want to play a little bit of that because Brian Flatoff decided he wanted to go into court to represent himself. So I just want to give a little bit, and this is just really embarrassing, but it's very revealing because, in a way, I think I understand where he's coming from, and I'll explain a little bit later on. But this is a little sound of the opening statement as Flatoff was trying to represent himself.
I'm going to show you in this trial all the evidence the state has documented in 2.5 years, except all the evidence the state has documented in 2.5 years, except for all they object to showing you. The state cannot prove these charges on the evidence it had, so they edited it. They lied and destroyed what they didn't want you to see. Though when I try to show you this, I suspect they will keep that from you too. 2.5 years after December 5th, 2015, I am still not in possession of original video or audio evidence.
Objection, Your Honor. The court's already ruled the state's in full compliance with its discovery obligations multiple times.
All right. You may proceed, Mr. Flatoff.
If allowed, I will prove this to you too. I have come here today representing myself to tell you the truth. Even the public defenders assigned to this case weren't willing to tell you. I plan to show you police corruption never seen before, though I suspect that everything else will be blocked from use. This is a deadly serious trial. One person already paid with his life, gunned down execution style by police sworn to protect you. To get to my defense, I have to go through evidence and